take people across. But what the Indian brain did, they put two cables side by side, put the hangers, and then put a deck. So the suspension bridge suddenly got a horizontal deck or a slightly curved deck. So that was the contribution by Indians. And that is where this Lakshman Jhula and all that came. And but all those, you see, the thing is, all the Lakshman Jhula and all the bridges that you see were not really stiffened suspension bridge. That's why even the one that you have in Lake, where usually lovers go and they rock the bridge to come together. Similarly, the Himalayan bridges had that sort of a shaking. Even today, if you go to Rishikesh, you don't find that good for vehicle. But the stiffened suspension bridge was what the Americans introduced. And in India, again, it has been done. In Arunachal Pradesh, we had done bridges of up to 330 meters. And number of them we had done in Nepal also. So India is very much behind, but still catching up on suspension. Thank you.
I'll just add to this question. India is going to have the second largest arch bridge in Kashmir in the new railway line, which design somehow I was involved in that. Yeah, I'll tell you. The largest is Lupu Bridge in Shanghai, China. Lovely bridge, 550 meters, and this will be just slightly less of that. So it becomes second. But that 800 arch bridge in Bhopal. That's it. Otherwise, our rail bridges are 135 years old, and they are all standing mostly. That's good. Ugliest. Oh, that's in Australia. That what is that? Huh?
Sydney Harbour.
No, yes, Sydney Harbour. That's a terrible bridge. And fourth bridge also comes very near.
I think you like yourself to be addressed Professor Ghoshal as Engineer Ghoshal.
That's right.
Unfortunately, I'm not an engineer, but I'm married to an engineer. You would have been delighted today to have listened to both of you experienced persons. Now, this is a very silly question, but like a common non-engineer, I'm thinking, how did the word pontoon originate, and what does it mean, please?
Pontoon, it's a boat. Pontoon is a military word. Pontoon is a military word. The military used to use the boats for moving their hardware, and it was built in a particular fashion with a horizontal deck. Normally, you find a boat a little curved and not a flat deck, but a pontoon has got a flat deck, and it is used for movement of vehicles and also for movement of material. I am giving you common sense answer because it's a common sense question also, but very good question though. Thank you.
Madam, I'd like to add one more thing. I am Ghosh, and my senior is Ghoshal.
Yes, please.
Viplov, make the points shorter.
One thing, I heard that Howrah Bridge, the Rabindra Setu was grossly over-designed. And we heard, because, I was in Dostud, Mr. D.S. Desai, who used to be involved in design of this bridge. And, he was director of our civil structure department.
Well.
And, he told me, in fact, he used to keep his handwritten design book and this thing. And we heard that it was used a very high factor of safety. That is why the steel was used very high. And one more thing, I'm just mentioning in a satirical way. We were given the job as MN Dastur for the Libyan project. So Libyan project, our Debu Ghosh was in charge of the civil structure. So the project manager told him, don't go to Dadu or Desai near. We don't want for Libyan Howrah Bridge type structures. This is just,
Well, I don't agree with the statement that Howrah Bridge was over-designed. You see, Sydney Harbour Bridge had been over-designed, And that is why they could add, it was built as a rail bridge, but they could add a road afterwards. It had so much of factor of safety. Howrah Bridge, considering the type of span, it's a balanced cantilever suspension span, and given the dimensions, you see, when designing for the Vidyasagar Setu, I was involved in tendering, and we had to prepare a lot of alternatives. My chief engineer at that time came to me and said, "Why are you trying to use a cable-stayed bridge and all that? We don't know the calculations so well. Why don't you use the Howrah Bridge type and try to reduce the tonnage? With modern technology, we shall be able to reduce the tonnage." I had done some investigation, but it was not that way over-designed. Of course, they had naturally taken precautions, which had been worth it, and that is why the bridge is in good shape. Achyut mentioned about corrosion protection. One of the facts which he will appreciate, this steel has got 0.3 copper, which is quite high by any standard, and that is why this bridge is free from corrosion. I had myself been involved in inspection of the bridge, and the upper structure, the top structure, which is the truss, it does not have any sign of blemish till today. It's in very good shape. It is only in the deck where the corrosion has struck. And if I am permitted one small anecdote, I had gone below the bridge because Port Trust had a problem. After that boy fell down, and they were trying to change the sort of expansion joint. I was requested that, there are some noises coming up. So myself and one of my colleagues, we went to a ladder. Howrah Bridge has got below it an inspection trolley, which is man-driven with winches, and which moves hardly, there are a band of Kalashis who move hardly 30 feet or 40 feet in a day. So they cover the whole bridge in, 50 days or 60 days. So I went on that trolley and went in and went near the joint. And to my horror, I found that, the stringers, the road beams and the cross-girder joint has completely corroded away. Completely corroded away, not for the reason Achyut mentioned, not for human excreta, but, because this expansion joint has been damaged and removed, people coming from North India, they used to offer milk to Ganga Maya. And they used to carry milk, and that was because if you pour from the railing, it comes back to you with wind. So they used to pour through that joint. And the milk, which accumulated over there, and milk is very corrosive. It's acidic. And milk corroded the end of the stringer. It was hanging. It was, in fact, not a support anymore to the road, but it was hanging from the road. How, I do not know. And, of course, the Indian brain is very good. When I came and reported to Port Trust, they took immediate action. What they did, they put a few rails on top of that place. They constricted the carriageway by putting, say, 10 rails, so no vehicle could get over there. So that, immediate rectification was not necessary.
Indian considering, Indian...
Jugaad, that was the jugaad. Thank you.
My next point...
Well, Biplav, I'll answer it like this. But to look at beautiful bridges, we'll have hundreds. Not even hundreds, maybe thousands. And new technology, everything is new. But one thing is, I promised Dr. Sengupta, I'll finish my lecture in 18 to 20 minutes. And I kept that promise. You see, every lecture, there is no end to knowledge. There is no end to knowledge. There is no end to what you can show, what you cannot show. But there is an end to the patience of the listeners. So, please. Yeah, what I'll suggest, I think Biplav will stop it at that. What I suggest is, we do choices. You make your choices in life. Your wife is a choice in life. So you always make your choice.
Can you give a chance? Sorry, this is not a technology-related question, but I find it very interesting that some of the most major and some of the largest bridges in the world today has been made in China. China is a real giant in the construction of bridges. I remember as a young person having read something by Syed Mujtaba Ali. I think it was in Panchatantra or somewhere. A story about a paragraph about building bridges. So Mujtaba Ali writes that when you have the British building a bridge and they start from both ends simultaneously, and when the two ends meet in the middle, there is only 1 inch or half an inch of misalignment. Then you have the Chinese, they are building, and so the engineers start from both ends and they never meet. So instead of 1 bridge, they have 2. So if this was Mujtaba Ali writing sometime in the 1950s about this, so where is lip? And I heard again that the Chinese are pioneers of cantilever. Sorry,
All kinds of bridges.
cantilever bridge. Yeah. So yes. So where is this? So I mean, where does this Indian perception about the imprecision of Chinese bridge technology come from, and where did the Chinese really take off in bridge building, if at any point?
Sir, if you permit me, I'll answer this question. Sir, it's like this. Out of 10 longest cable stayed bridge in the world today, 9 are in China. Well, Mujtaba Ali Sahab has taken liberties as a writer. He has a right to do, and he has made our life full of happiness. But again, in my country, where Ghoshalla is involved, the Vidyasagar Setu, again something same happened. From the two ends, there are cables, always cables. So the level difference when they butted 12.3 meters, 12.3 meters last span, which was welded there. But then we found a gap of 150 millimeter between the level of the two. And the solution was very easy. The one which was higher, you put loaded trucks on that carriageway. It got down. Non-engineering. But that was how it was solved. Ghoshalla was involved there. I was also involved. I have always, whenever there is a problem, I'll tell you a small story. You know, the crane on the Howrah side of Second Howrah Bridge, it got damaged. That is, I will not go into it. Somehow it got damaged. The operator was taking tea, and he started the crane, and it got damaged. So everybody was, the whole thing was standing for 1.5 months, 3 months, nothing doing. 660 crores, 100 crores cost, this, that, and it is a the jet load cooperating, so there are problems. But anyway, it was solved. I was called, and it was solved. That's it. We solved our problem.
The wrong faculty at Jadavpur University, but anyway, I have 2 questions. One is, how would you estimate the future longevity of Howrah Bridge? How much longer is it going to last, you think? How many decades, centuries? And the other actually is a question about Vidyasagar Setu, because you were also comparing the relative heights of the 2 bridges. What is the justification for the far greater height of Vidyasagar Setu? Is it?
Sir, I think we can both answer. Let my senior answer first.
Well, I am taking that question because I was involved in the planning stage of Vidyasagar Setu. First, I'll answer the second question first. You see, when Vidyasagar Setu was made, even at that time, sea-going vessels used to come up Hooghly. And there were vessels which were entering Khidirpur dock. If you stand on Vidyasagar Setu, you will see that the entry lock to Khidirpur bridge comes in an incline. And ships always go up the incline. You know, they always have to enter against the tide, so that it doesn't lose control. The fear was that if one of those bridges lose the rudder or lose control, then it might come and hit this bridge. But unfortunately, the time that we took in building that bridge, you know, this bridge, Howrah Bridge, was built in exactly 5.5 years. Vidyasagar Setu had a timeline of 5 years, but it took 21 years for other reasons, not for engineering, But question is, by that time, seagoing vessels have stopped coming coming up Hooghly, and today it will be looking like a folly. It's a, foolish action. But that is how it was a very big issue, raising that bridge, and you can see how much of approach viaducts had to be made. It is only because the bridge is so high. Look at Howrah Bridge. It has got just a bend like this and people come down. Whereas in Vidyasagar Setu, you have got to go round and sometimes lose your way and before you come down. So, exactly. Very true. Yes.
Professor Chaudhary, who does not know of you? We get enlightened by reading your articles. I do. I read it. And thank you, sir. I am seeing you face to face. Since I go to the Jadavpur, that Salt Lake campus, your campus, we hardly visit. I have not met earlier. It is my pleasure to meet you, sir. Now, the first question, how do you calculate the remnant life? Residual life. Now, see, there are codes, civil engineering codes in all over the world, Euro and our IRC, everywhere, there are standard methodologies developed to find out the residual life of a bridge. Normally, a bridge designed today, a bridge is designed for 130 working years. But then, we always expect that there will be a residual life and a little bit of maintenance. And corrosion and other things, they are visible. Vibrations, corrosion, stresses in the elements, these are indicators that how much remnant life it has got. And there are visible indicators. Now there are instrumentation. There are instrumentation which you can do to a bridge. Modern bridges are built with instrumentations. Instruments are put in there so that we take readings later and we can calculate. But here also we can go on adding instrumentation and we can do it. Yes, sir.
Is about the risk perception of the old Rabindra Setu due to ongoing east-west metro tunneling. Lot of rumors around. I would like to have some of the expert views.
Absolutely none, because you see, as I mentioned, that we have very stiff clay underneath the riverbed. And when designing the tunnel and when constructing the tunnel, care has been taken that the tunnel passes through the stiffest of clay. And, well, I have visited the tunnel while it was being constructed. You just do not get any feeling that you are under the river. Because a stiff clay, you can very well understand, is one of the safest situation. If it is sand, there is a chance of leakage, there is a chance of movement. But in a clay, particularly this Calcutta clay, the old Calcutta clay, there is no chance. And the boring, when they have done the tunneling, the amount of earth they have brought out is not very much above what was calculated, theoretical calculation. If only you take out more material, then there's a question of void and then there's a question of disturbance. So there's no disturbance. And this is absolutely safe if somebody is talking about it. Why the Howrah Bridge? Why the bridge? From the bridge, it is quite a distance away. But it has gone plumb under the synagogue. The very old synagogue. It has come just below that. And it is safe. The Greek Orthodox Church. There, nothing has happened. The tunnel has come and passed. And even those dilapidated buildings next to your Brabant Road viaduct, those buildings as it is fall down. But when the tunnel has gone, nothing has happened. Thank you.
I'll just add to it, Professor Shandal. See, the present TBMs, these tunnel boring machines, they are fantastic elements. All this diameter and with fluids are injected through to reduce the friction. So it's a beautiful thing. Development, it has occurred. Thank you. As I said in my... Yes. In my lecture, as I somewhere mentioned, I love Netherlands. There are 200 bridges in the city. And in Moscow, there are plenty of bridges. That's small. In European rivers are like drains compared to our rivers. And they go on building bridges and everything. So in my country also, we'll have bridges. It takes money, it takes social pressure and all these things. So in due course, it will happen.
The question I'll ask is probably asked in parts already before by Professor Achyut Ghosh and Mr. Sharnal, but I've been troubled about the future of bridges, which has been asked about, and I was like, I'm not from the field, so this might sound like a little stupid question, but I'm really confused about why bridges and not tunnels, especially when we are looking at the One Bridge, One Road initiative. We are talking of crossing the Atlantic, or the future, which Mr. Musk is predicting, of hyperloops. I'm just trying to understand why a bridge and why a tunnel and why not anyone in which
Well,
case.